When freedom of thought and freedom of expression abound, there is much controversy and much confusion. Yet it is from such controversial confusion that the simple facts of life emerge, attracting us with their eternal uniformity and harmony, and appealing forcibly to us with their invisible simplicity and truth. We are living in an age of freedom and mental conflict. Never were religious sects so numerous. Schools, philosophical, occult, and otherwise, abound, and each is eager for the perpetuation and dominance of its own explanation of the universe. The world is in a condition of mental ferment. Contradiction has reached the point of confusion, so that the earnest seeker for truth can find no solid rock of refuge in the opposing systems which are presented to him. He is thereby thrown back upon himself, upon those incontrovertible facts of his own being which are ever with him, which are indeed himself, his life. Controversy is arranged around hypotheses, not around facts. Fact is fixed and final. Hypothesis is variable and vanishing. In his present state of development, man is not alive to the beautiful simplicity of facts, nor to the power of satisfaction which is inherent in them. He does not perceive the intrinsic loveliness of truth, but must add something to it. Hence, when fact is named, the question almost invariably arises, how can you explain the fact? And then follows a hypothesis, which leads to another hypothesis, and so on, until the fact is altogether lost sight of, amid a mass of contradictory suppositions. Thus arise the sects and controversial schools. The clear perception of one fact will lead to the perception of other facts, but a supposition, while appearing to elucidate a fact, does in reality cover it up. We cannot realize the stately splendor of truth while playing with the gaudy and attractive toys of pretty hypotheses. Truth is not an opinion, nor can an opinion enlarge or adorn it. Fact and supposition are eternally separate, and the cleverest intellectual jugglery, while it may entertain and deceive even the elect, cannot in the slightest degree alter a fact or affect the nature of things as they are. Because of this, the true teacher abandons the devious path of hypotheses and deals only with the simple facts of life. He fixes the attention of men and women upon these, instead of increasing confusion and intensifying wordy warfare by foisting another assumption upon a world already lost and bewildered in a maze of hypotheses. The facts of life are ever before us, and can be understood and known if we but abandon our egotism and the blinding delusions which that egotism creates. Man need not go beyond his own being to find wisdom, and the facts of that being afford a sufficient basis on which to erect a temple of knowledge of such beauty and dimensions that it shall at once emancipate and glorify. Man is, and as he thinks, so he is. A perception and realization of these two facts alone, of man's being and thinking, lead into a vast avenue of knowledge which cannot stop short of the highest wisdom and perfection. One of the reasons why men do not become wise is that they occupy themselves with interminable speculations about a soul separate from themselves, that is, from their own mind, and so blind themselves to their actual nature and being. The supposition of a separate soul veils the eyes of man, so that he does not see himself, does not know his own mentality, is unaware of the nature of his thoughts, without which he would have no conscious life. Man's life is actual, his thoughts are actual, his life is actual. To occupy ourselves with the investigation of things that are is the way of wisdom. Man considered as above, beyond, and separate from mind and thought, is speculative and not actual, and to occupy ourselves with the study of things that are not is the way of folly. Man cannot be separated from his mind. His life cannot be separated from his thoughts. Mind, thought, and life are as inseparable as light, radiance, and color, and are no more in need of another factor to elucidate them than are light, radiance, and color. The facts are all sufficient, and contain within themselves the groundwork of all knowledge concerning them. Man as mind is subject to change. He is not something made and finally completed, but has within him the capacity for progress. By the universal law of evolution, he has become what he is, and is becoming that which he will be. His being is modified by every thought he makes. Every experience affects his character. Every effort he makes changes his mentality. Herein is the secret of man's degradation, and also of his power and salvation, if he but realize this law of change in the right choice of thought. To live is to think and act, and to think and act is to change. While man is ignorant of the nature of thought, he continues to change for better and worse, but being acquainted with the nature of thought, he intellectually accelerates and directs the process of change, and only for the better. What the sum total of a man's thoughts are, that he is. From this sameness of thought with man, there is not the slightest fractional deviation. There is a change as a result with the addition and subtraction of thought, but the mathematical law is an invariable quality. Seeing that man is mind, that mind is composed of thought, and that thought is subject to change, it follows that deliberately to change the thought is to change the man. All religions work upon the heart, the thought of man, with the object of directing it into pure and higher channels. Success in this direction, whether partial or complete, is called salvation. That is, deliverance from one kind of thought, one condition of mind, by the substitution of another thought, another condition. It is true that the dispensers of religion today do not know this because of the hypothetical veil which intervenes between the fact and their consciousness, but they do it without knowing it, and the great teachers who founded the various religions built upon this fact, as their precepts plainly show. The chief things upon which these teachers lay such stress and so constantly reiterate, such as the purification of the heart, the thinking of right thoughts, the doing of good deeds, what are they but calls to a higher, nobler mode of thought-energizing forces, urging men and women to make an effort in the choosing of thoughts which shall lift them into realms of greater power, greater good, greater bliss. Aspiration, meditation, devotion, these are the chief means which men in all ages employ to reach up to the higher modes of thought, wider airs of peace, vaster realms of knowledge. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. He is saved from himself, from his own folly and suffering, by creating within new habits of thoughts, by becoming a new thinker, a new man. Should a man by a supreme effort succeed in thinking as Jesus thought, not by imitation, but by a sudden realization of his indwelling power, he would be as Jesus. In the Buddhistic records, there is an instance of a man, not the possessor of great piety or wisdom, who asked Buddha how one might attain the highest wisdom and enlightenment. Buddha replied, by ceasing all desire. It is recorded that the man let go of all personal desires, and at once realized the highest wisdom and enlightenment. One of the sayings of Buddha runs, "The only miracle with which the wise man concerns himself is the transformation of a sinner into a saint." Emerson also referred to this transforming power of change of thought when he said, "It is as easy to be great as it is to be small," which is closely akin to that other great and oft repeated but little understood saying, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which in heaven is perfect." And after all, what is the fundamental difference between a great man and a small one? It is one of thought, of mental attitude. True, it is one of knowledge, but then knowledge cannot be separated from thought. Every substitution of a better for a worse thought is a transforming agency which marks an important advance in knowledge. Throughout the whole range of human life, from the lowest savage to the highest type of man, thought determines character, condition, and knowledge. The mass of humanity moves slowly along the evolutionary path, urged by the blind impulse of its dominant thoughts, as they are stimulated and called forth by external things. But the true thinker, the sage, travels swiftly and intelligently along a chosen path of his own. The multitudes, unenlightened concerning their spiritual nature, are the slaves of thought, but the sage is the master of thought. They follow blindly, he chooses intelligently. They obey the impulse of the moment, thinking of their immediate pleasure and happiness. He commands and subdues impulse, resting upon that which is permanently right. They, obeying blind impulse, violate the laws of righteousness. He, conquering impulse, obeys the laws of righteousness. The sage stands face to face with the facts of life. He knows the nature of thought. He understands and obeys the law of his being. But the sorrow-burdened victim of blind impulse can open his mental eyes and see the true nature of things when he wishes to do so. The sage, intelligent, radiant, calm, and the fool, confused, darkened, disturbed, are one in essence and are divided only by the nature of their thoughts. When the fool turns away from and abandons his foolish thoughts and chooses and adopts wise thoughts, lo, he then becomes a sage. Socrates saw the essential oneness of virtue and knowledge, and so every sage sees. Learning may aid and accompany wisdom, but does not lead to it. Only the choosing of wise thoughts, and necessarily the doing of wise deeds, leads to wisdom. A man may be learned in the schools, but foolish in the school of life. Not the committing of words to memory, but the establishing of oneself in purer thoughts, nobler thinking, leads to the peace-giving revelations of true knowledge. Folly and wisdom, ignorance and enlightenment, are not merely the result of thought, they are the thought itself. Both cause and effect, effort and result, are contained in thought. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts, it is made up of our thoughts. Man is not a being possessing soul. He himself is soul. He himself is the thinker and doer, actor and knower. His composite mentality is himself. His spiritual nature is rounded by his sphere of thought. He it is that desires and sorrows, enjoys and suffers, loves and hates. The mind is not the instrument of a metaphysical, superhuman soul. Man is soul, mind is being, mind is man. Man can find himself. He can see himself as he is. When he is prepared to turn from the illusory and self-created world of hypothesis in which he wanders, and to stand face to face with actuality, then will he know himself as he is. Moreover, he can picture himself as he would wish to be, and he can create within him the new thinker, the new man. For every moment is the time of choice, and every hour is destiny.